Drafted in round one. He falls out of that and, of course, had to sit in the green room all night last night. Let's bring in Adam Schefter for a little bit more. And, Adam, what do we know about why this happened for Will Levis, what we can expect?
Laura, we're looking for big answers, right? And last weekend, there was some speculation that Will Levis could go as high as number 2. Las Vegas reacted in a way that he would be going number 2 due to some false information that was spreading across the internet. But the fact of the matter is, there were 3 teams up top that were going to pick quarterbacks. And the one obvious landing spot was Indianapolis. And Indianapolis decided to go with Anthony Richardson, who they had a higher grade on. And it's that simple. Once he got past the Colts' turn, there was not another team in the first round that had a high enough grade to warrant drafting him at that point. So we could talk about his toe. We could talk about all these other things. The fact of the matter is the answers are on the tape. The answers are on the boards of the grades that the teams gave him. And there were some teams, actually, that made some calls to try to move back into the end of the first round to explore the idea of potentially getting Will Levis. I think he'll go in the second round tonight. I think he'll go relatively early tonight. But it was the theater last night that we see almost every year in the NFL. Somebody sitting in that green room that we expect to go early on. Who doesn't? Who begins to slide? It was reminiscent of Geno Smith or some of the other quarterbacks we've seen through the years. This is Will Levis's turn. It's not a pleasant thing to go through, but I think he'll be off the board tonight in relatively short order.
Yeah, Adam, to your point about Vegas being affected by some of the information out there, Will Levis had the second best odds yesterday to be the second overall pick, and the best odds to be the 4th pick, and he's still available on day 2. A lot more from Adam Schefter coming throughout the next couple of hours as he stays close by. RC, what did you make of how it all went for Levis last night?
Well, I think the first thing is no matter what, if you have any sort of compassion, you understand how difficult that has to be for a young man and his family. And on the other side of it, when we were at the Combine, I said I thought it was 3 quarterbacks and then Will Levis. But if you look at the evaluation process, Anthony Richardson and Will Levis had the most to disprove, right? Yeah. Or the most to prove to teams. Anthony Richardson, how can we evaluate your inexperience and how you grow? Will Levis, what can you tell us about your 2022 film? It seemed that Anthony Richardson handled this process a lot better than Will Levis did. And eventually teams saw that they would rank Anthony Richardson higher, look at his potential and what he can be above Will Levis. And after the Tennessee Titans didn't draft him, a free fall was sure to happen.
Handled the process better is like the big takeaway. Watching last night's tough. I've gotten to know Will and his family. It's a tough moment for them to have to experience with the expectation. But something happened from the end of his season or the start of draft season and then throughout those meetings. Blaine Gabbert, Christian Ponder, E.J. Manuel, Jake Locker. Those guys have all first-round talent, and teams found reasons to draft them in the first round.
Yeah.
I know we disagree a little bit. He's got first-round talent. He does. Something happened with, like, the intangibles, the meetings, the film watching with him that took a lot of teams and made them take a step back and be like, not worth it. Because if all those guys, and I'm not trying to be rude to those guys, if they're good enough talent-wise to get drafted, he is as well. Something in the intangible world went down with all those teams.
You know, I suspect there's also a reason he fell and Anthony Richardson was taken where he was that was out of his control, which is he's nearly 4 years older than Anthony Richardson. This came up occasionally when we talked about him and Hendon Hooker, who also wasn't taken in the first round, as some thought. But, you know, looking at Richardson, a guy who only played 13 games, there's so much potential there. Sure. He is 20 years old. Will Levis turns 24 this summer. And I think for teams, when you look at him and you say he's a flawed prospect, you also have to say he might be a finished product because of his age. And I know that's something that NFL teams take very seriously. Yeah. And I suspect it took him off of a few teams' boards.
Poor Will. Listen, Dan, you just said something. And we've been around this game a long time, and we see when guys have first-round talent. But also when we were talking yesterday, there has to be something, right? Like, we all locked into Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and Anthony Richardson.
Right.
And everybody that talked about those quarterbacks, not just on our show, but across networks, they identified one thing that they felt was elite.
Right.
I don't know if anybody can say that about Will Levis, because arm strength now is becoming one of them things where it's expected.
Sure.
Right? So when you turn, watching the film, and when you think about where Will Levis, and look, Second
Marcus,
round
we're
is
4 or 5 years away from a Mitchell Trubisky being drafted second overall, and I don't know if there's anything elite with him.
But Dan, when you look at now, think about what we watched last year in the NFL. Think about how we talk about these quarterbacks in the AFC. One, you don't have time. So to your point, Mina, like if you're a finished product, you've just set your franchise back, right? You will feel more comfortable if Anthony Richardson fails and you drafted him
100%
because of what you projected.
You can justify it.
You can justify it.
Yeah.
I just didn't. Look, he'll probably go second round,
right.
and you could have made an argument for him being first round. I just think when you turn that tape on and nothing is lifting you above.
You're saying the talent isn't so high to overcome some of the
things
potential.
that you,
guys,
man.
Guys, and I
tough.
wouldn't be surprised if a team falls in love with Hooker and goes him over Will.
Because of the
Will
person,
tonight.
the character?
Well, because they're very close in age, and I think some of the things that you've seen from Hendon Hooker, especially at Tennessee in that offense, and who he is as a man in leadership in the locker room could be something that attracts you to him.
That would certainly be a notable thing to watch out for. Another thing, too, guys, I think a lot of this has to do with the changes at the quarterback position at the NFL level.
100%.
It's just different than it used to be. It is hard to watch it happen. And we're all human, right? And so just sending our thoughts to Will and his family today. Like I said, he'll be plenty motivated by this.
Dan, what does it feel like?
Oh, my God. That was me. Dan, you weren't in. You know what? I actually feel bad for you about that.
I don't feel bad for me.
Okay.
I'm not talking.
I actually don't.
They never called me, so I ain't got nothing to
and
say.
you know what? Mina and I weren't in there either, so there we are. All right.
A whole lot of undrafteds.
We got the one first rounder over there who had to throw that out there. Cruel and unusual. Dan, so if a team were to be watching Levis's film, meeting with him, talking through the processing and all of that, what is something that might stick out that would make them shy away from drafting him as early as we thought he might go?
I just think the pocket feel has got to be concerning. The ability or lack of to know where the space is and how to get there. Running yourself out of good pockets or running yourself into bad ones. This is one clip, and there's a bunch all over his tape. This is against Missouri. I want everyone to pay attention to just the pocket. It's third down. All you're going to get from Missouri is a 4-man rush, and he's got his eyes downfield. Left side of the screen, people are open. He hangs right now. This is a good college pocket. Look at the separation. But you see, instead of like throwing the ball over the middle of the field or dumping it to the back, he runs himself into the defenders. I can't tell you how many times offensive linemen, I've heard them complain about that about quarterbacks. Like, stop running in to sacks. I'm doing my job, and you're running into the defender instead of having that feel. And I think outside of, like, he's got remarkable talent, that's I find it to be a very difficult thing to be able to just coach in the NFL because you don't have enough time to be able to develop it.
I commend you for your recovery there, Dan. That was excellent.
I'm going to get his
phenomenal.
No, you will. Let's spin ahead to tonight. Stop. Let's spin ahead to tonight. Round 2 of the NFL draft is just about 3 hours away. So, Mina, what team should still have Levis on the board? Like, where should we be looking for him to potentially go?
I was going to throw out some teams picking relatively early in the second round, teams like the Raiders, the Titans, whatever. But the thing I can't get over is if you're thinking about taking him there, why wouldn't you jump into the end of the first round so you can get the fifth-year option?
Adam did say that there were some teams trying
but they didn't do it.
They didn't do it.
And that's what makes me nervous about the potential of him dropping a little bit further. I think when you get to Tampa in the middle of the second round, that's a team that clearly needs a quarterback of the future. And then I could see them saying, okay, we love Kalijah Cansey so much, we're going to take him in the first round. But maybe the middle of the second round is when we'll take a flyer on Levis. But I really don't know. The more I think about teams not trading up, the more concerned I get.
The unfortunate part about the Will Levis situation is the teams have shown we don't need him, right? Like you're at a point in the draft now where you're drafting Will Levis hoping that he turns into something, but you'll be fine with him backing up somebody, or you'll be looking in a future draft to change that position. Here's the thing that Will Levis has to understand, though, about the league, right? Right system, a good system around you, a good supporting cast around you, and we build something for whatever you possess that we consider elite. And that's what he needs to be hoping for now, beyond just being the first name off the board tonight. Or it's about location for him now.
Yeah.
And what system and structure is he going to? And does a coaching staff that draft me really believe in me for real?
Right.
Or I was just a quarterback available and they took me off the board?
He needs to go to a team that is thanking God he fell to them.
Exactly.
He needs to get to a place. There needs to be a team that's sitting there and they go, oh my God, we didn't think that we could get Will Levis, and he's here.
Yeah.
And now we feel that he has some elite traits that we can build around. And I believe in you, and I'm not going to push you to the side. I'm not going to just treat you like a backup. I will treat you like we moved up into the first round to get you. We're not asking you to start right now, but we believe you have that level of talent. If he doesn't go to a place like that, with everything it seemed to be believed about him throughout this process, I don't think he makes it. He has to go somewhere where they treat him as if he matters.
The Giants, Brian Dable, with what he's done, Minnesota, maybe the Raiders, but I think the way you phrased it is perfect. Like, one of those teams that said, oh, my gosh, we didn't plan on you being here, but you're our top 50 player.
Yeah.
And this is why we have to go get you.
And that reception might be exactly what he needs.
The last thing, too, though, Laura, we need to know who the starter is. I don't think he needs to go to a Tampa where we need to know this is the starter. Will you ain't right now?
Competition right now.
And you can get there.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.